You know who he is? I know exactly who he is. I know his type. I'm going to tell you who he is.
Angel Knot.
Salutations to the nations. What's good, Angel Knots? It's your boy, Young Sinai. So today, we're going to be watching a video, The Completionist is in Huge Trouble. Now, admittedly, this video is old. It's about 5 months old, but, you know, for those of you all who don't know, which I'm sure most of you all do, The Completionist is a gaming YouTuber, and his whole thing is completing games, like 100%ing them. Another famous thing that he did is when the 3DS eShop and the Wii store were shutting down, he like completely bought all of the games and everything, and then I think that he donated it to like the Gaming History Museum or something like that. And then he got exposed by some ordinary gamers, and he was actually a part of a charity fraud, and his channel just like went like, ooh. He went from being like one of the most loved people in the gaming scene to one of the most hated. And I was like, you know, I haven't heard any updates. What's happened with him? Apparently a lot. You know, and this is from 5 months ago. So, you know, pardon my ignorance on not knowing what's going on, but I don't keep up with this man's life like that. You feel me? But let's go ahead and check this out. This video is by Carl Jobst, Jobst. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. All right, let's go ahead and get to it.
Hello, you absolute legends. Can you believe it? It's already been more than a year since the Completionist and his family's decade-long charity scam was exposed last November. For those who need a quick refresher, between the years of 2014 and 2023, Gerard and his charity, the Open Hand Foundation, took in around $1 million of donations, money that they said
this was the charity that he like made for his mom, to like dedicated to his mom passing away.
it was going to various charities focusing on dementia research. But over that entire time, the truth was that they hadn't donated a single penny and had kept everything. It was only after Mudahar and myself made our videos
I thought that this was the second guy who helped expose, but I wasn't too sure
about the situation that the Open Hand Foundation finally donated some of the money, donating $600,000 to the AFTD. The Completionist public image was pretty much destroyed, and deservedly so. He had been lying for years, and after he was exposed, he took no accountability whatsoever. He made up excuses, made
lies longer than his beard.
up lies, and more than anything was just angry at us for making the public aware of what he was doing.
Yeah, I remember he made that video like not taking any accountability, just like gaslighting the audience, gaslighting just the entire situation. Crazy.
And it didn't take long for the Completionist to return to YouTube and continue making content.
Like nothing happened.
After his terrible response video, he just moved on and acted as if this entire charity scandal never happened. And his family moved on and didn't care whatsoever either. They even held another golf charity event several months later. This was immediately after it was already proven that for years the golf charity money had never even made it to the Open Hand Foundation. The family was keeping everything. But then, around 4 months ago, the Completionist disappeared. And there might be a good reason for this. The Completionist production company, That One Video Entertainment LLC, is in huge trouble.
Man, here's the problem. It's not about the video. It's about me and my coffee. So I have to have my coffee very hot, right? Like I gotta put it back in the microwave after it's done. But then I got it so hot that it's burning and I can't even drink it, man. It's something wrong with me.
I've never spoken about this, but for the past 2 years, the Completionist company has been engaged in a frivolous lawsuit against the biggest GTA Online roleplay server, NoPixel, basically trying to extort them for half of their company. And in October, they lost. And now Gerard's company may have to pay back hundreds of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees. And the cherry on top of all of this is that it appears as though the Open Hand Foundation might now be under investigation by the IRS. A lot's been happening, and in today's video, we will take a quick look. I really hope you enjoy. Now, Legends, a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Watcher of Realms. Combines times are creating crisp festive news Chinese of valuable, powerful messages Christmas. What available?
Today's video, I want to recognize that I know that I have lost a lot of your trust at home, and I want to spend as much time as it will take to
That made me wonder, was you even completing these games? You know what I'm saying?
rebuild and re-earn your trust. It's going to take time, but I'm willing to put in the commitment, and I hope you give me a chance.
This is what Gerard said back in January when he returned to YouTube less than 2 months after his charity scam was exposed. I have no idea what he meant when he said that he wanted to re-earn your trust, because after this statement, he continued to pretend that nothing ever happened and he never spoke of it again. For the next 8 months, Gerard would continue to post videos to his channel, hoping to resuscitate his brand. The quality, however, was now greatly diminished because most of his employees either quit or he let them go. And then in August, he released a video about alien isolation and hasn't been seen since. But while Gerard was pretending that everything was hunky-dory on the surface, behind the scenes, shit was hitting the fan. For the past year, many people, including myself, have been waiting for the Open Hand Foundation to file their 2023 IRS tax forms. Personally, I wanted to see if anything changed after they got exposed. Were they suddenly going to start properly declaring their income now that so many eyeballs were focused on their charity? Well, what's interesting is that the Open Hand Foundation hasn't filed their 2023 IRS tax form, despite it being long past the deadline. If you search the charity through the Office of the Attorney General, it says
they was doing some straight up detective work. You talk about pocket watching.
Reporting is incomplete and the IRS form is required. This hasn't happened in any other year. The Open Hand Foundation have always filed their forms on time. So it's very peculiar that at a time where it's more important than ever to be transparent, they aren't reporting. Of course, there are multiple possible reasons why they aren't submitting their forms. The most obvious would be they haven't yet done their 2023 accounting, but it could also mean they are currently being audited by the IRS. Personally, I think it's the latter, given how many people reported the charity after the scandal broke. Another piece of evidence to support the fact they are being audited is that it does appear they have already done their 2023 accounting. So there doesn't seem to be any other legitimate reason not to file. We know they've done their 2023 accounting because as part of their 2024 annual charity registration to the Office of the Attorney General, they needed to state their revenue and expenses for the previous year, which they did. And this is where things get very interesting. This form doesn't give us any breakdown like the IRS tax forms would, but it does give us a few basic figures. It says that in 2023, the Open Hand Foundation raised $155,000. This is significant because it's by far the most revenue the organization has ever reported in a single year. The previous highest total was back in 2021 when they raised $136,000, but that was under very different circumstances, so let's compare. In 2021, Gerard's fundraiser Indieland received $113,000 in donations just through Tiltify alone. The charity also received a $25,000 grant from Jamie Lee Curtis's charity, Syzygy. Just these two income sources alone already amount to more than the $136,000 they reported, which means all of the bits, subs, merch sales, and all of the golf charity money simply vanished. Gerard's company or his family just took the rest. And this pattern of money vanishing continued from the years 2019 all the way through to 2022, a total of 4 years. And the money that went missing probably totaled several $100,000. But in 2023, after the public realized Gerard's family was stealing money, suddenly everything changed. In 2023, Indieland only raised $64,000 in donations through Tiltify.
That's crazy that they were still raising any money after all this came out.
This is $50,000 less than in 2021, and yet magically, 2023 was the Open Hand Foundation's best year ever, raising $20,000 more than they did in 2021. It is a miracle. By the grace of God, the Khalil family has finally learned how to properly report their income. It's amazing. We already knew that Gerard and his company were stealing money before, but this most recent accounting is just the nail in the coffin. It is so brazenly obvious that once they were exposed, they decided it would be unwise to continue skimming off the top. And as a result,
that's probably a smart idea.
Despite last year being one of Indieland's worst performing years ever by far, the Open Hand Foundation was more profitable than it's ever been. Another interesting thing about this form is that it shows the Open Hand Foundation is still holding on to $200,000. And this is before their 2024 golf charity event, where they would have collected even more in donations. Why are they still keeping this money? One thing I've come to realize is that
I think they like trickling it out through the years. Like, you think they either spent it all, or do you think that they're like trickling it out to pay taxes? I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about.
while Gerard may have been very concerned with his public image, his family, specifically his brother and father, couldn't care less. This is why back in May they continued running their golf charity tournament as if nothing ever happened. If you look at the Open Hands website now, Indieland has been removed as one of the charity events, leaving only the golf tournament. And the golf event was never something that Gerard was a part of organizing. And it's why the Open Hand Foundation now feels comfortable going back to hoarding donations, because the public backlash that was originally directed at Gerard now has nowhere to go. When the Open Hand Foundation made their
So is that like, I know it's charity fraud, but is that also, that wouldn't be considered money laundering, because money laundering is taking dirty money and making it clean. So yeah, no, this is just charity fraud.
$600,000 donation. After the story initially broke, they still had $200,000 sitting in the bank. And this story initially, when the Open Hand Foundation made their directed at Gerard, now has nowhere to go. When the Open Hand Foundation made their $600,000 donation after the story initially broke, they still had $200,000 sitting in the bank. And this is only from the reported income. As I said before, I suspect Gerard's family has siphoned hundreds of thousands of dollars out of the charity over the years. But I can't think of a single good reason why they still need to keep $200,000 in the bank, when their expenses average around $10,000 to $15,000 per year, and literally the only purpose of the charity is to be a middleman between good Samaritans.
I remember when he was like, yeah, the money's still there, it just hasn't been touched. But the thing about charity money, to my understanding, is you have to put it where it's supposed to go. Like immediately, right? Because even if it, let's give them a good faith argument and say his family didn't spend any money, right? Over years, the money is still depreciating. So, like, especially over a 5-year span. So essentially, you're still not contributing the amount of money that was donated because it's depreciated so much, or it doesn't have as much value, you know?
And charities that actually do dementia research. As I said before, the lack of filing to the IRS is a pretty good indication the charity is now under investigation, and I really do hope this is the case. But the IRS isn't the only thing Gerard now has to worry about, because Gerard's company, That One Video Entertainment, has just lost a huge lawsuit. That One Video Entertainment LLC is the company that Gerard created in 2012 that all of his business activities fall under, including all of his YouTube channels and his charity event, Indieland. I will be calling it TOVE for short. On Gerard's LinkedIn page, he states he is the owner, president, and CEO of TOVE. And in April of 2023, TOVE sued GTA Online's most well-known role-playing server, NoPixel. NoPixel is owned by Coil Content Creation Proprietary Limited, which was started by a fellow Aussie, Mitchell Clout, otherwise known online as Coil. If you follow The Completionist, but don't follow GTA Online role-playing, you've probably never heard of this lawsuit. And even if you have, you probably have the wrong idea about who is suing who. And that's because the reporting on this lawsuit has been abysmal and full of misinformation. It all started in May 2023, when a user posted the lawsuit to Reddit, claiming that DW was suing NoPixel. DW was a developer that worked for NoPixel for several years, but he and NoPixel's owner Coil had a falling out in December of 2022, and DW ended his relationship with the server. The day after this viral Reddit post, Dexerto signal boosted the story, with the headline, "Former GTA RP NoPixel server dev DW is suing owner Coil for considerable sum." However, this was all completely false. It wasn't DW that was suing NoPixel, it was the completionist company, Tove. It literally says who the parties are on the first page of the lawsuit. I don't understand how everyone got this wrong. Tove's lawsuit asserted that because DW developed some code for the NoPixel servers and DW was an employee of Tove, this meant that Tove owned the code that DW developed, and thus Tove should own half of NoPixel. But this entire lawsuit was a shakedown and an extortion attempt from day one. It was all bullshit. We are talking Billy Mitchell levels of frivolous. Everything about this lawsuit was a lie, and it's going to take a separate and quite lengthy video to cover everything in detail. But if you thought that charity was the only scam that Gerard and his company were pulling, you couldn't be more wrong. Needless to say, this lawsuit never made it to trial. In October, the judge ruled in favor of NoPixel, and now NoPixel is seeking attorney's fees of $233,000, and they are probably going to get it. Unlike most other lawsuits in America, when you sue specifically for copyright infringement, it's actually built right into the statute that you can get attorney's fees if you win. And because Tove's lawsuit was so frivolous, and the judge didn't even see a need to go to trial before ruling in NoPixel's favor, Tove is probably going to have to pay up big time. As soon as the judge makes a ruling on the motion for attorney's fees, I will do a full breakdown of this lawsuit, because it really proves that Gerard's shady behavior surrounding his charity was not an isolated event. Until then, thank you so much for watching, you legends. I hope you're having...
Yo, I think my biggest takeaway with this whole thing is it's just crazy how someone can be such a nice, smiling face online, and then behind the scenes they have all of these crazy ulterior motives, right? In the Bible, we refer to that as a wolf in sheep's clothing. You know, Gerard seems like such a nice, friendly guy that you would hang out with, play games with, but you know who he is? I know exactly who he is. I know his type. I'm going to tell you who he is. Man, I had a friend in high school or middle school. No, it was middle school, who came over to my house and spent the night. And we played Sega Dreamcast, right? And you remember Sega Dreamcast? It used to have those little memory cards where it had like the little digital animation on it or whatever. Like, I couldn't find that mug anywhere, right? And then my dad checked his backpack, and sure enough, that's where it was. This dude, he in my face the whole night like we just buddies. Meanwhile, this dude's stealing stuff behind my back. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of person the completionist is, right? So I guess with that being said, don't look at, content creators as they are, perfect people. I know I'm surely not a perfect person. I'm sure my wife would tell you that, and so would my kids. But just pray for discernment when dealing with these people, especially if you're going to send any money. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, I appreciate you guys rocking with me. God bless and salutations to the nations. Please make sure that you like and subscribe. I'm on my journey to my first 1,000 subs. You know what I'm saying? If you subscribe, you can go to the post and you can see how to win a Trim UI brick. All right, I appreciate y'all. Peace.
Angel Knot.